radio show, podcast, and social media. Said differently, I visit college campuses so you don't have to. We're talking to so many voters that know it is time for change. They know that something is wrong. America's future is a series of choices. Our current state of slow motion national decline is a choice. Today is our 2-year-old's birthday. And I look at my daughter, and that is my why. For those that are parents, you know exactly what I mean.
There is no mountain that stands tall as your faithfulness. There is no river that runs wide as your goodness.
Man, Charlie, I remember when we were starting these out, and
It was that, like that.
you know, it was like this. It was like your average
First 3 rows.
It was like your average political meeting where there was like 12 people in a room, and this is awesome.
This, in my personal opinion, was the most over-the-top Trump event that I've ever covered.
This is the #1 boots-on-the-ground operation in the country. We're working directly in harmony with the Trump campaign. It's been vetted, it's been cleared, it's been blessed, as you can see there, and we're going to try to win this thing. No guarantees. It's what we do that matters. Mr. President, I can tell you this room is 100% with you, and we have your back. God bless you. We really do. Thank you. As you know, we are heading on campus here momentarily at the University of South Florida, throwing it down with the students. It's going to be a lot of fun. We are excited to continue this cultural movement that we have started at Turning Point USA. More high school chapters, more college chapters, and disagreement is not just welcome, it is invited. We want to have those tough conversations. That's what it's all about. You're not supposed to be involved in this. You're supposed to just kind of be on the vote for me every 4 years, give me more political power, and stay out of my business. And what has happened is we are seeing an explosion in citizen participation.
There is nothing else I'll ever need. All of my days, your mercy follows me. Oh, there is nothing else I'll ever need.
Knock on that extra door. Go that extra mile. Talk to that extra friend. Because throughout voting month and culminating on the 5th of November, I believe it will go down as a day that people remember, as a day that is written about in history books, as the final battle from the golden escalator on down, from defeating Hillary Clinton, from the nonsense of 2020, from Butler, Pennsylvania, November 5th, it all culminates where we restore the promise that the founders gave us. And they said, hey, if the people want it, the people get it. And we, the people, take back America. God bless Arizona, and thank you so much. Every day, the American people demand certain accomplishments and victories. Disagreement is what keeps a movement alive, keeps a movement fun. Here in this country, we are a country of flourishing. We're a country of risk-taking. We're a country of building. We will achieve American greatness, and we are just getting started.
All of my days, your mercy follows me.
Every day, there's a battle for your mind raging. Information coming from every angle with the will to deceive. Fear not. You found the place for truth. The voice of a generation that still has the will to believe in the greatest country in the history of the world. This is the Charlie Kirk Show. Buckle up. Here we go.
Hey everyone, I'm Megyn Kelly, and I am honored to be sitting in Charlie Kirk's studio hosting the Charlie Kirk Show. We're simulcasting it out right now for our listeners on the Megyn Kelly Show, and we're all so honored to be a part of this. We traveled out to Arizona last night, and just stepping foot in the state, I mean, you can't go more than 100 feet without seeing something to honor Charlie, especially here at the headquarters of Turning Point, where you pull up and it is like something. The only thing I can compare it to it is after Princess Diana died, where you see the teddy bears and the balloons and the signage lining just the entire campus outside of this building. I mean, there's an incredible outpouring around the world for him. And I'm so honored to be sitting here in the studio. I'm here right now with Andrew Colvett. He's Charlie's executive producer. Andrew, thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you for making the journey and the trip. I know it's no small task, and you honor Charlie. Charlie would be so honored, and you were one of his dearest friends in this whole crazy media and conservative space, and he would absolutely. I started making calls probably within 36 hours, and I knew exactly who to call, and you were absolutely one of those people, and so thank you for making this work.
Thank you. I feel like the one thing I can say about me and Charlie is, I think you once described it as the weird chemistry he and I had together on the air, because I absolutely loved talking to him. I can't think of somebody I wanted to talk to more ever. When I saw it was a Charlie Kirk day on the show, I knew it was going to be a great program. I knew he was going to bring something different than what we would hear from everybody else. And one of the things that I knew I'd get from Charlie was humor.
Yes.
Always made me laugh.
That's an underappreciated quality of Charlie, and I don't want to give away where we're going with this show. If you want to, that's fine. You're driving today. But the people closest to him, the people in this building, they all have many stories about how Charlie just made them, keel over laughing just because he was really funny. He had a very dry sense of humor. And it was very Charlie. I don't know how you could really describe it. They're going to have to tell you themselves. But yeah, and that came through in interviews with you. It didn't come through with everybody. But with you, you guys had this rapport. And I remember always texting back and forth with your team because you're on the air with them and he's on the air with you. And we'd be like, oh, this is great. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I remember you going on Sean Ryan's show and he was like, who should I interview? And a lot of people sent me this clip. I don't know if I ever told you that. But I saw it and you were like, you should have Charlie Kirk on. It never happened, and that's fine. I met Sean a couple times and we were always kind of talking about maybe whatever. But the fact that you were...
I just knew. Because I felt like for the first couple of years that Charlie and I were talking, by no means was it that Charlie was undiscovered. He'd been discovered and he had already built this massive organization. But in more traditional Republican circles, he wasn't as well known, and in some circles, not as well understood.
Yeah. The establishment circles.
They thought he was fringy. And I would tell all my friends in that lane, no, you got to listen to him. Yeah. He's hugely important to the future of the Republican Party and the country. And they would listen. More and more he was gaining friends, even among that wing, of course. But, in the beginning, people feel threatened by somebody who's coming up in their lane. They don't want to lose their positions. Is he going to take over the Republican Party? And then Charlie, just by sheer force of will and personality and goodness, won them over. It was to know him truly was to love him.
And you're going to see that. I think very rarely, people that work with a very demanding, hard driving person, which Charlie was, there's no doubt. Very rarely do you couple that with the more time you spend with him, the more you love him. And everybody in this building and Turning Point staff will have the same exact reaction. He was endearing in the most amazing way. And I had told so many people this, actually. I'm really proud that I got to before he died, that you just can't help but love the guy because the mission, his belief, his faith, And he was generous to a fault. He was loyal to a fault, and he was trustworthy. And he would never, ever spill the beans. He wouldn't gossip.
I never heard him say a negative word about anybody.
No.
Even on the air, he'd come on, we'd be talking about who's in the news. And half our friends are always in the news because they say controversial things, what have you. And so you always got to, treat it gingerly when you're going to talk about something like that. But Charlie would always say, I'm just never going to say anything bad about that person. He would own it, I don't care whether they're in the news or not. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, even if he disagreed with them privately, a lot of our friends would say things that would cause a big stir, and there was pressure. You got to condemn this. You got to call this person out. You got to do this. And Charlie was like, no,
he never did. And honestly, I'm now trying to live by that example. I'm not going to lose my generally cynical mofo nature. That's technically not a swear. I just want that clear. We don't swear on the Charlie Kirk show.
7 words, yeah.
I know. Poor Charlie. I would subject him to my potty mouth, and he was such a good sport about it. Yeah. But no, we are on his show now. We will be good. So I'm not going to lose that. But it gave me pause to think about not being too quick to condemn people who we like and who deserve the benefit of the doubt.
And in this moment, I know there's a lot of people online. We hear you that are saying different things, and they're processing their guilt in the way that
their grief,
their grief. Thank you, and their mourning in the way that they know how.
Exactly.
And it's going to come out in 1,000 different ways, and we are trying to give everybody space to do that. Obviously, I personally, Andrew Colvett, would do it one way, but other people are going to do it another way. And we really do have to honor Charlie in that way and say Charlie was a master of collecting people. He was.
Yep.
And there is a reason for that.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I have always tried to not choose a side within Republican politics, to try to keep the door open to everybody. He made me look like an amateur at that, because there wasn't any. You look at America Fest, you look at the Student Action Summit, you look at any event that Charlie put on, you'd have everybody from all ideological wings of the party.
Yeah.
He managed to hold this coalition together in a way few can. I mean, few other than Donald Trump can.
No, for real. And I think, and I've said this before, but I just want everybody to keep hearing it, that Charlie looked at the virtues, the roles that one could play in society. And he was borrowing this from the Greeks and others, but being a statesman, being a philosopher, being a theologian are the highest callings. And he told me some of the deepest conversations that we had before he died, saying, everybody can open a stream and say crazy things, but not everybody can be a statesman. Not everybody can be a coalition builder. It's really hard to build. And he was very proud that we had built something, that he had built something that is an institution that's going to outlive him, with friends that of all different parts of the party that love him and that admire him. And so I'm not kidding, we talked for hours about this on a few different occasions about why that was the highest calling. And I could tell he was working that out with me.
And not just working that out, but what I've learned just since Charlie died is working to be the person. I did not realize how much work Charlie put into these campus appearances and honing his game and making sure he was at the peak in terms of his ability to have these exchanges.
He disciplined his body to do it. He was a biohacker. He was religious about sleep. He didn't put poisons into his body.
Yep.
He really understood that he had to get the most out of himself, and he found time to do the most bizarre things.
On the
journaled.
biohack front?
He journaled. He read books. He listened to books on tapes. He found ways to maximize every single second.
I think one of the services you and Erica could, when everyone's feeling better, provide for his fans would be to put together a list of what Charlie read. I feel like everybody would want to see that. Just the best you can cobble it together. Just go to his bookcase, go to his, Kindle, whatever, because I think people would love to know what influenced him. He influenced them. What influenced him? We've got news to make. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back and we'll make it. Don't go away.
So I'm a Canadian. Don't hold that against me. I'm so happy to be here. Pastor Tommy, you're an idol for me in the best way. I don't mean in a negative way. It's just a privilege to be here. My dad's a pastor in Canada. He just turned his church over after decades of amazing service. I went to Bible college in Portland, Oregon. Youth pastored for my dad for a couple of years. Then I moved to New York and I was a part of a church there. When I was in New York, I had this idea: what if we made Bible college cheap, or affordable rather, but awesome, and not woke? One of the concerns that I've had with a lot of Bible colleges is that it trends very liberal and progressive. And so we created this platform called Theos U, and it's like $10 a month. We have hundreds of trainers on there that teach. We're conservative. We're unapologetically theologically conservative, and we all believe in the gifts and the power of the Holy Spirit. I'm a die-in-the-wool Pentecostal. I'm sorry, but it is what it is.
You don't have to apologize. This is what I love about Freedom Night. We have 5-point Calvinists and swinging from the chandelier Pentecostals, and
Totally.
we all love Jesus here. And Nathan, so why is it that the church, the last decade especially, has become so woke? Define the term. Where does it come from, and why is it happening?
Yeah, so defining woke, I guess, is that's like juggling 8 balls. But I think it's not something that's happened in the last 10 years. It's probably something that's happened in the last 150 years. It began with the Enlightenment and people questioning the word the way that Satan did, and then kind of twisting it the way that Satan did, and sort of removing all of its power, doubting the miracles. You end up with, when you start to tear the miracles out of the Bible, you end up with just the maps. And the maps aren't all that helpful. And then I think there's a major shift in the church about 40 years ago, maybe 30 years ago, with the seeker-sensitive movement, which I think started in a good place, where it was, we want to reach more people. But my dad's generation, my dad was a 17-year-old when he met Jesus through a Teen Challenge coffee house. And he was a drugged-out hippie. Yeah, and he got filled with the Holy Spirit, and he went to a Pentecostal church, and he got super involved there, and his life just completely changed, and he experienced Jesus. It's one thing to know about Jesus, it's another thing to experience Jesus. And so the church that my dad was raised in was a church where, how do we get God to come to church? But it's almost like it switched a number of years ago, where it was, how do we get people to come to church? And for me, I think that has been a Trojan horse, because when all you're thinking about is, how do I please this person in the pew, and not how do I please the Lord, you're gonna have problems. And it's a giant setup, for inviting all kinds of bad doctrines.
Yeah, I would, the best way to explain woke to your friends is call something unfair or unjust until you control it. So call something racist till you're in charge.
Right.
So call something sexist till you're in charge.
Right.
And it's a means to power.
Totally.
So wokeism is a lot of things in particular. One, though, that you've really been able to pinpoint, Nathan, brilliantly, is deconstructionism. So deconstructionism, everybody, is unfortunately growing in a lot of seminaries. It's this idea that we need to take apart the essence of the Word of God, that we need to ask, did God really say that? Is that really what the Word says? Basically challenging biblical authority and scriptural inerrancy using the same analytical tools that they use on American history, that they use on American founding documents. So for example, we don't like the 1619 Project, right? We don't like CRT. And we fought against that. But those same analytical tools are now used in Christian schools. Explain more, Nathan.
Yeah, that's really good.
Thank you.
That's really good. Just taking notes. Essentially, Marxism kind of comes in, and people buy into that. Everything is about power, and everything's about these power plays, and so we have people that are swimming in this stuff. They come into our churches, and so when they read the Bible, they're not reading the Bible.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly, sitting in on the Charlie Kirk Show, and it's my honor to be here out in Phoenix, Arizona with his team, and we're simulcasting for our audience on SiriusXM as well. I'm here with his top lieutenants, and they've been through so much over the past week, and they know Charlie so well. We thought it'd be great to bring some of these guys in and talk about some of their memories of Charlie, which we're going to do. This is Blake Neff. Will you describe what you did for Charlie?
I was a producer, helped get guests for the show, but also especially talking points, researching issues. What do we want to say about this? And he would come to me, Blake, what do we think about this issue? And Charlie is a busy guy, so sometimes it was my job to go and read the 400-page book about something, so I can give him a 10-page digest of it later.
Yeah, aren't you? Didn't he call you his secret weapon?
I'm told that. He didn't tell that to my face. Yes. I'll accept it.
I heard he called you his secret weapon. And then there's Mikey McCoy. How you doing, Mikey?
Good.
All right, and tell us what you did for Charlie.
Yeah, I was his chief of staff, worked for him almost 6 years. Organized his life.
So he took you out of your cradle.
He plucked me out, saved me from going to college.
He did, right?
Yeah,
no,
literally.
for real.
He said, I don't want you to go to college. I want you to come work for me. So best decision I made. So with him for 6 years, his Swiss Army knife. If a problem would arise, I'd go and solve it for him. Kept his life organized and traveled with him everywhere.
He was always so complimentary of his team, Andrew. I mean, whenever you give him a compliment, he would give it back to you guys. He never took the compliment directly. Yeah. And now there's a question about who's going to lead the team going forward and who's going to lead this enormously important organization. And I understand you have some news on that front.
Yeah. Since everything has happened, I think the number one question is what is going to happen with Turning Point? What is going to happen next? And I'm pleased to be able to announce with you, and I think it's appropriate because of who you are and who this person is, that the Turning Point board has unanimously selected Erica Kirk as the new CEO and chair of the board. And not only is that amazing in and of itself, but I can assure you, Megyn, that Charlie told me personally, and he told others, he probably told Mikey, that if anything ever happened to him, that this is exactly what he wanted.
Wow. I have the chills. It had to be, right? I mean, I don't think anybody would accept a leader of the organization who they didn't feel completely understood Charlie and would be 100% dedicated to fulfilling his vision for where this group is going.
Well, and let me just add one more thing, and I want Mikey to chime in here as well. But in the immediate hours afterwards, Erica got a call from somebody very important. I'll leave that vague out of privacy, but she got a call from somebody very important. And the question was, what do you know? Sort of asking how much of what's going on behind the scenes and with the relationship, what do you know? And her reply back was, everything. Oh. I know everything.
That's good. You can tell the bits of the two of them, and showing the clips that you guys have released show, first of all, their immense, intense love story, which has been so uplifting to everybody who's ever felt love or wanted to in their lives. And we pulled this one that you guys ran because it's so touching. It's SOT 17, and it's her when they were engaged sitting on this set, I think. Let's watch it.
I'm not going to be able to focus sitting this close to him.
Hi. You ready? What?
Hello. I'm not going to be able to focus looking right at you. I'm just going to be staring at you.
Hello.
Wow.
Ready, Terrell?
Hold on.
We're rolling?
We're not.
All right, you'll be switching? All right, I'll count it down.
Wait. I'm kind of nervous, you guys.
She's nervous, which is why we must get going. All right, we ready?
No.
Yes, sir.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of The Charlie Kirk Show.
You're gonna have to do it again.
Introduce yourself.
Is that what you're gonna say?
Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of The Charlie Kirk Show.
You're so handsome.
I'm engaged. Would you like to introduce yourself, or should I introduce you?
This is mortifying.
How would you like me to start? All right, we'll try it again. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of The Charlie Kirk Show. Joining me is the most special guest, my fiance, Erica. Welcome to The Charlie Kirk Show.
Wow. I don't know about you guys, but I was holding it together just fine up until that. Their love story was something.
Yeah. Charlie knew how good Erica was. We know how good Erica was. And when she made her address the other night, right next to this chair, I think the whole nation found out how good Erica was.
The amount of strength that took.
She's our Khaleesi. She's our retribution.
The memes are already flowing.
Yeah, right. Well, there's more on her and what's happening next here. Next. Don't go away.
Word of God, they're problematizing the Bible, and then we start to realize, I'll give you a great example. And every deconstructing influencer that I follow on Instagram, because I follow them to learn, what they're saying and stuff, they all basically do the same thing. They love hippie Jesus, and they hate the Apostle Paul. And so it's, you know what I mean?
Really interesting. No, that's... Keep going.
Yeah, so their version of Jesus, and they kind of collapse Jesus too, because the truth of the matter is that if you read Jesus in the book of John, I mean, he'll cut you. He'll pull the switchblade out. You know what I mean? He's like, he's not always carrying a lamb, he'll pour some
create
crowd.
a whip, literally.
Exactly, he pours a little crowd thinner out every now and then, and people walk away. The rich young ruler, he's like, money has a control on your life and you're gonna need to get rid of it. And he just walks away. I mean, today's pastor, if I was a pastor today, I'd chase him and invite him to a Kingdom Builders breakfast, Jesus, we're having John Maxwell next Sunday, come, I love John Maxwell, by the way. I'm just saying, like, Jesus just let these people walk, So my thought is you can't pit, scripture against scripture. And Jesus, they have these collapsed 2D versions of Jesus that the Jesus that calls you to deny yourself and pick up your cross and follow him doesn't exist. It's just Jesus that's the socialist Jesus, and they say everything is through their Marxist binaries, So Jesus did this for these types of people. Jesus did this for these types of people, and then pitting Jesus against the rest of Scripture.
Well, and this is how you know Jesus is the savior of the world, because everyone wants to claim him. The communists want him. Even the Muslims want him.
Right.
Everyone wants Jesus.
Yeah.
Mind you, we don't want any of their stuff. We don't want Muhammad. We don't want Marx.
Sorry.
We're good. We got Jesus.
Yeah.
But they know there's something about Jesus that is special, unique, extraordinary, transcendent, and divine. And that's a very important thing. Almost every sinister movement in the history of the planet has tried to claim Jesus as their own.
Yeah.
And that's because there's something there. Now, but Nathan, let's go a step deeper. How does deconstructionism manifest? How can people start to spot it? When either maybe in a Christian podcast or in a sermon. I can give an example and then you can. Well, they'll start to be like, well, we don't really need the Old Testament to understand the New Testament. That's a phenomenon that might be growing. Or they'll try to apply modern secular humanist worldview onto Scripture. And if you listen carefully, you'll realize that they're imposing their own modern values over Scripture, not submitting to God's word.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Like I said, the first thing for me, when somebody starts to pit Jesus against Paul, right there you have a deconstructionist. They all do it. It's their favorite thing to do. They like to make Jesus out to be, for example, there was this one lady I followed on Twitter, and she believed that Jesus came, he was there to liberate people, and to free people from oppression. That was the big thing. And so I began to just ask her more questions, like if Jesus was a liberator and he was against oppression, he didn't do a very good job, did he? You know what I mean? Like, and as I began to question her more about this, for example, like she would make this claim, like Jesus elevated, women, and I'm like, he certainly did. He certainly elevated women, but I just said, like, well, Judas disappeared. That was a great chance for Jesus to make women an apostle, and he didn't. So don't you have a bone to pick with him? And she said, yeah, actually, I do have a bone to pick with him about that. So it's like.
But do you see, let me interrupt. That's her thinking she's better than Jesus. And at that moment, the whole game gets exposed. Because she's imposing other morality on top of the scripture. Right. And that's the kicker.
Yeah, totally. Demanding that Jesus be this oppressor that would meet her modern criteria. And so, I believe that women can preach and lead and pastor and all that, but I'm just saying, though, that like using Jesus as your women's lib, he doesn't go far enough for you. If he's overthrowing government, he doesn't go far enough for you. If he's there to prioritize the poor, for example, a Marxist will always prioritize somebody who is poor over somebody who's rich. The rich are automatically evil and the poor are automatically a problem. Well, Jesus doesn't do that. And even the book of Proverbs, it's like, justice has to be equal. You don't give favoritism to the rich.
Leviticus 19.
Yeah. Exactly. So all that to say, there's a lot of ways that you can point it out, but I think the first.
This movement will not be silenced. You're listening to The Charlie Kirk Show.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly, sitting in Charlie's studio with some of his dear friends and staffers. And I don't know, you guys, today has a different feel for me. I've been listening all week with JD, the vice president, with the guys from Daily Wire, who I love, with Glenn. And of course, we've been covering everything about Charlie since, last week on my own show. And just being with you all, I feel better. I don't know. Like, today just seems like we're able to laugh a little. Like, it's not that people aren't in grieving, but it's a sign of mental well-being that you can find a way to like chuckle here and there. I had my first laugh actually the other day when my friend reminded me of my favorite exchange with Charlie. It was very funny. And it was actually, it arose out of a time when Charlie was in trouble with the left for having said something that they thought was terrible and I knew wasn't terrible. And it was part of his courage in saying something that everybody believes, but they would never say it out loud. It was about how they were so focused on hiring women and black pilots and minority pilots and going from 3% to 50, right? 3% to 50, that we were going to have to worry about who the hell was flying the planes. Because it was like, what do you mean? Black people are only 13% of the population. How are we going to have 50% of them being pilots? Anyway, so Charlie said that, and then everybody said he was a racist, which was bullshit. Oh, sorry, which was bull. It happened. Never mind. Hey, force of habit. And hold on, let me find it. Here, he came on my show, January 2024, and made the following point as only Charlie could. SOT 22.
DEI invites unwholesome thinking. And I said, and I was saying in the clip, that's not who I am. That's not what I believe. But what it does is it makes us worse versions of ourselves, Megyn. That's the whole point of what I was saying, is that I now look at everything through a hyper-racialized diversity quota lens because of their massive insistence to try to hit these ridiculous racial hiring quotas. 3 to 4% of current pilots are blacks right now, 3 to 4%. And now they want to say this is just a hiring class of candidates. Are there enough candidates to fill the 50% quota? And the other question should be asked is, why is it a problem? Let's just ask the premise. Why is it a problem that 81% are white? And I love the Axios guy. Well, white males are dominating the cockpit. Yeah, those pesky safe flights are dominating our society, Megyn. all those 25 years of commercial airliners that have kept on, dominating as if like the white male is like oppressing us with, their beautiful landings through turbulence and storms.
You know, just because he said that at the end, I think one of a great little Charlie thing, every time a plane took off, he would say, "Lord bless this flight," right as it began to accelerate. And then when I joined, I would add, "Lord bless this landing," because I find that a pretty important part of it.
That helps. So tell us something about Charlie that we don't know.
Oh, man.
Who's got one of those? Blake, Mikey.
You know, I think
we also have two. We have two new guest stars
Mikey
here.
and I
want to tell everybody we have Daisy Phelps and we have Emma Kate Bartles. And Emma Kate, you did Charlie's social media. And Daisy, you seem like you did everything.
Media director. I just kind of explain it as podcast media, digital media, sponsorship media. Whatever Charlie said.
Did for Charlie and now will continue doing for Erica and for Turning Point.
We're all in it.
Sorry, yeah, what were you going to say?
So one of the things Mikey and I agreed we were really happy he got to do, one of the things about Charlie is he was so famous, he had no anonymity anymore in America. And he actually really liked going out on walks. And so we were actually in Asia just the weekend before this happened, and we were in Seoul. And I'd been there a little bit early. I was going to a wedding for a friend of mine. And so when he got in, I was like, Charlie, the best way to understand the city, just kind of walk around and see how it's different. And so, we were there. He got in on a Friday. And so I think Saturday morning, he just got up extremely early, 5:30 a.m., and he just started walking around the streets of Seoul. And for once, he got to just wander a city. And he was just, for most of the people there, he was just kind of this foreigner wandering around their city.
He's tall for American standards.
He would draw everyone's gaze.
Korean.
He would draw everyone's gaze. But, for once, he could just wander a city as a traveler. Yeah. And he really liked to do that.
I didn't realize what a big walker he was.
Big walker.
Yeah.
My version of tourism is you stop at a cafe, you eat, you keep walking, you stop, you shop. Charlie's is you just walk. And it was 90 degrees, 90% humidity. We're sweating through our suits, and we're all like, when is he going to stop? When is he going to stop walking? Finally, he stopped at a coffee shop, and we were like, okay, we're going to get like 10 minutes here. No. 2 minutes, and we're back out in the heat.
But like no vices, right? Like, did he even get the coffee or did he get the midnight tea?
He got the mint tea.
Yeah, the mint tea.
Classic mint tea with 2 honeys.
No alcohol,
everyone's
no
been
caffeine.
getting now. There are so many outside of HQ people leave their mint majesty with 2 honeys.
Did you see that story, Daisy? Of they posted it on X. An older woman, a grandmother, went into a Starbucks and asked for that, and they gave it to her, and they wrote "loser" on it. Her family unleashed holy you-know-what on this Starbucks to the point where they were temporarily closed when the family went back to find accountability. It's amazing, though. It's like the story's not about some loser who wrote "loser," right? It's about people have had it. They're pushing back Charlie style because the confrontation was actually very polite, but it was like, you're not going to do this to us.
Well, and what's funny is we had just at our Student Action Summit in Florida, we did a Prove Me Wrong, which was kind of the first we'd done at one of our own events. So it was supposed to be more lighthearted. Pretty much everyone that's there loves Charlie, is his supporter. And so most of the questions, some of them were like about the Bears, the Cubs, what if he likes waffles or pancakes, and then what his Starbucks order was. Because we talked about it the other day, but he would have these cough drops all the time, and people would think they were Zyn. They were just cough drops. He had to have them for his throat, and then people would ask what his Starbucks drink was, and everyone was guessing in the crowd. And Emma Kate posted that video, and it went viral.
Yeah.
They loved knowing what he had. They just love real stories of him.
You're
right
incredibly
now.
talented. Charlie's social media is next level. So I don't know how you manage that, but through the social media right now, people are reconnecting with him or connecting for the first time in like a really unprecedented. I've never seen anything like it.
100%. I saw a TikTok this morning of somebody saying they tried to silence Charlie, but I hadn't really seen his videos or paid attention to them. He was like, now I'm going down a Charlie Kirk rabbit hole. I'm watching every video. I'm listening to every podcast.
We all are.
He was like, I can't believe I'm just now discovering this, but I feel so blessed that there's so much on the internet that even after his death, people are still getting to know him and love him.
It's one of the few blessings around this thing is like all the hours of tape.
I think I saw the same one where he was like, you guys made me obsessed with Charlie. I didn't even know him until this.
Right. Now, speaking of obsessions, you two share one and Charlie tapped into it more than once. Tell us.
Just any sort of Taylor Swift news that come up, he would just be like, explain this, what's happening? And then when we were in the office when the news broke about them getting engaged, and Charlie was so excited for them. He was like, this is amazing. More people should get married and have kids. This is a great example for everyone.
So on brand.
Like, yes, exactly. We're so happy for Taylor.
Well, I have a question about Charlie for you guys. So I mean, he was human. There were people who would irritate him. I know because I talked to him about some of those people. How would he handle that? Like Taylor is one of them. She came out and she endorsed Kamala. She said it was because of Kamala's LGBTQ stance. Of Tim Walz actually was, I mean, crazy statements. So how would he get past that and then be he seemed to be able to do that with everybody.
I would say for the most part, instead of him getting irritated by people in pop culture, it more so just went to the side of him, and he wouldn't really pay attention to it until he'd be like, hey, this is, I remember one time he's like, what is Brat Summer? Because everyone's talking about it. It didn't annoy him because he didn't even know about it. He was just so focused on what he needed to do.
Yes.
So would be like, Charlie,
so
this
what
huge
we're
thing is
gleaning
happening.
here is Charlie was a nerd.
Yeah, there you go.
Which is fine. I remember Andrew was telling me about how they intentionally made him not nerdy for the Prove Me Wrong segments. Like maybe we won't wear the suit. Maybe we'll wear a T-shirt. And that worked, right? He gained a lot of extra fans.
He still was pretty alpha. I think we can all agree.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting combination, right?
Yeah.
Because he was a brainiac, but he was alpha.
Yeah, and he was like the ultimate pinnacle example of what being a man is. And so being more like Charlie, he would never drink alcohol. Yeah. He'd go to the gym. He always ate healthy. He always had that Starbucks order. He always took care of his vocal cords with his throat coats and everything.
Discipline.
He was a disciplined alpha male. And when he had to tap into the nerdy side of him to learn something, he would tap into it.
Well, how did he? So he didn't want you to go to college, and you agreed not to. And then did he put you through college?
Yeah. I think I learned more under Charlie, but I also, one of my favorite stories of Charlie, since we're all just kind of going around, probably my favorite, we were at the RNC and JD had just come out on stage, and whether you guys know it or not, Charlie played a role in JD being the vice president. And he comes out on stage. Charlie was so excited. We snuck on the floor. We didn't have a pass. We went to the very front. It was just me and Charlie. And JD says something about Joe Biden, and this was right after the debate. And everybody was like, Joe's got to go. Joe's got to go. Joe's got to go. And Charlie turns around, looks at me in this cinematic way, and he goes, careful what you wish for. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then the next, I think a couple days later, I don't even remember, Kamala Harris is the nominee.
I know.
That summer was crazy.
Yeah, more fundraising, more battles, more pain.
Right.
Charlie was very funny, and he had so many funny one-liners where he wasn't trying to be funny, but it was just those quick little ones. Like I can remember on Juneteenth this year, he sent us a video. He said, I can't remember exactly what he said. He said, happy Juneteenth. I'm on my way to work. Go to work today. Everybody have a good day.
You did not take off that national holiday.
No, we did not. We were here working, but it was just those funny little selfie videos he would always send in our chats, where most of them would get posted on TikTok or stories or whatever.
Like what? Like he would send videos of himself to the team?
Just selfie videos, just doing little quick commentary on whatever was happening, or just telling a story or giving updates. And it was always those really short ones that I loved the most, because they were just so funny without trying to be funny, and people loved them.
That's hilarious. So it wasn't necessarily for social media, but it was like for all of you.
Yeah, and we would post them a good amount, but it was just, it was just kind of a little bit of behind the scenes Charlie.
Yeah.
That, people loved to see it.
A really fun behind the scenes Charlie. So he was a sports fan, and the way he would consume it had to be very intense, because he doesn't have, other than Saturday, which he always was strict about taking off, he didn't have the time to just lounge around watching a game. So the one I'll always remember is shortly after I joined, we had the World Cup in Qatar, and he was all invested in the U.S. doing well. And so he was watching the World Cup games on his phone during the show and was reacting to things in the game during the segments.
He'd also always have the iPad with him. He always had an iPad with him, and he was always watching sports on the side.
So the Cubs, Erica mentioned the Cubs. And did she say the Ducks?
Big Ducks fan.
We have
Huge.
a flag that
Now,
we
why?
had in the studio for a while.
Why?
It's where his family went to college, and he wanted to inherit a college football team, and it was his. He was so passionate.
He would sometimes say, I just want to retire and go coach college football. That was what he would say if he was frustrated. Like, I should just quit and go coach college football.
Same with the Olympics and March Madness. We had iPads set up all around the studio, so he would constantly know what's happening in the games.
Once you've been president, coaching a sports team seems like a great thing, and that was clearly in Charlie's future. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Don't leave.
surge happening of Christian interest in this country. The most popular music now for Gen Z is Christian music. Forrest Frank is incredibly popular and growing in popularity. We are seeing, even more so than the rapper Drake, which is very, very promising. And even if you listen to Forrest Frank's lyrics, they're actually pretty biblically good. I mean, you could like try to nitpick. They're way better than some of the other Christian music sometimes that's gotten popular.
Sure.
And like legit, like very good, like submitting to God's will and his path for really, there's something happening right now. And it's a revival that is really surprising a lot of the experts. You see, when I was young, and you guys remember this 10 years ago, we were told that it's gonna be a gradual decline of Christianity and there's no reversing it, right? That it's just this whole chapter is gonna close. And we saw it in the numbers. If you saw the chart, man, when Pastor Tommy started, it was, 80% of people would go to, church regularly, and then it was 70% and 60%. Then it goes 55. All of a sudden now, this last year, first time it's gone up about a point or two in the last 25 years, almost solely because of Generation Z, just so we are clear. Right. Almost solely because of young people. Why is this happening, Nathan?
I think that it's happening because Jesus is good at his job. He said that he was going to build his church. And I'm going to give away my eschatology in a sentence or two. I don't believe that Jesus is coming back for a weak, anemic bride. That's what I believe. I believe, I don't believe that we're going to need to be raptured because we suck at our job and Jesus sucks at his. I believe that Jesus is coming back for a powerhouse, glorified church. I believe that. I don't think it's because we're amazing. I think it's because he is. He said he'll build his church. He's going to build an amazing church. The gates of hell won't be able to stand against us. I mean, and the picture is the church raiding hell, not hell coming at us, right? So I believe that the church is going to be glorified. And, we're not there yet, but we're getting there. I mean, she's on the treadmill. She's doing keto, So our best days are ahead.
What lessons are you seeing of how a pastor should conduct himself in the sermons and the messaging of what is working and what is problematic? As far as not just growing the church, but like what are you seeing on the landscape? Because you deal with a lot of pastors, don't you? What are your biggest sticking points to try to keep this revival going and some of the fault lines that should be avoided?
So I believe that the purpose of the church is to worship God, equip the saints, and reach the world in that order. And as a Pentecostal, I'll speak from a Pentecostal ecclesiology. I believe that if we're not priests, we're going to be consumers. And one of the challenges I think that the American church is facing right now is that with the advent of the seeker-sensitive movement, where we're thinking about how to get people to church, we do a ton of advertising, and we essentially attract a lot of consumers who are there to eat, essentially. And when you're a consumer, you're problematizing everything. Oh, they didn't sing Good, Good Father, it's my favorite song, 0 stars, But when you're a priest, you come to church and you bring the sacrifice of praise. And the thing is when you put, 1 Peter 2:5 says that you yourselves as spiritual stones are being built up into a spiritual house to be a holy priesthood, to offer spiritual sacrifices. What kind? Acceptable ones to God. So when you come to church, you're not there.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. I'm sitting here on Charlie Kirk's set, and what an honor to be hosting his show today as we simulcast the Megyn Kelly Show as well. And I have to tell you, we've been joking in between the commercial breaks. I don't know how it's been here for you guys, but this is the first. I haven't laughed this much in a week. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It just feels good to talk about him in a more lighthearted way because that's who he was. I mean, of course, the last thing Charlie would have wanted was for us to be all sitting around feeling sad, especially while talking about him. Yeah. So to me, this feels like an appropriate way of handling grief too.
Yeah.
I'm joined now by two additional staffers for Charlie, Danny Phillip, and hold on, Nate Walker.
That's correct.
You're Nate and you're
Yes.
Danny. And Catherine Locastro. Yeah, and you did all admin. You do all the Abby stuff. It's from the sound of it, like admin, organizing everything.
Yes.
This must be so hard. How are you handling all of this?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's been really special to have the team that we have to lean on each other and get through it together. I think it definitely has been incredibly busy, and it's kind of interesting to balance the grief and the busyness of everything. But I think the will to work is contagious. And I mean, I'm just following Mikey's lead and Erica's lead and trying to do everything that Charlie would have wanted, which is to keep going and to just work harder than ever. So, yeah, definitely busy. And
The busyness is
yeah,
a blessing.
It is.
I mean,
I
it's
agree.
it's amazing. Charlie's life work is keeping everyone occupied in a way that I think is good and is productive. So Nate, tell us what you did for Charlie.
Yeah, I was Charlie's executive assistant. The day-to-day Charlie, make sure he has his food, water, clothes, all the stuff that he doesn't need to think about. I would do for him. And
Clothes. How'd you do clothes?
Yeah, you figure that out. It was difficult, not the easiest job.
We have the
but
clothing racks in the warehouse.
Yeah, some days I would just have to guess, figure out what is Charlie going to want to wear today, and sometimes I'd be right, sometimes not. But
Well, can
it
I
was
ask
awesome.
you? This is not to take it to a darker place, but we're all wearing these freedom shirts,
Mhm.
the same shirt that Charlie was wearing
Yeah.
on the day he was killed. What is there a story behind this shirt?
Yeah, so we usually bring a couple shirts to the campus stops, and I asked Charlie in the car. I go, Charlie, what shirt do you want to wear? He goes, I want to wear the freedom shirt. That's not controversial.
What were the other options?
Ooh, I can't remember.
Like, what
exactly.
did he wear like the one that my son has with Trump giving double middle fingers?
No.
You missed twice.
Not those ones.
It would always say something: "Never surrender. Here I am.
Yeah.
Freedom."
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
he liked his short taglines.
I was actually, when you guys asked if I would wear this on the air, I was so honored, and I feel like I have such a treasure having this shirt.
Yeah.
You know, it's such a treasure now. Danny, what'd you do for Charlie?
So I did like research and prep for him for the show.
Oh, wow.
Meetings, events.
That's a heavy lift.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Because he was meticulous.
Yeah, and then it would also be like, okay, 5 minutes before the event starts, I need more on this. So find more on this specific person or something like that. So it was always something.
Like what was he like in that way? What would interest him?
He would be interested in the most specific stuff sometimes, and then sometimes he wouldn't care. Mikey probably knows about this too, but yeah, he would want very specific details on very specific things that really no one else would think about.
Yeah.
And then other times he would just be like, I'm just going to wing it. During his speech, I got it covered.
And then you'd
So-
probably hear that stuff actually come up in one of the Q&As on the Prove Me Wrong segments. It's like, oh, wait a minute. Actually, he needed that.
Yeah.
Right? That's everyone's marveling right now on the internet at Charlie's depth of knowledge about everything.
Everything.
How? Can anyone here explain that? How?
Yeah, he was diligent, as we said earlier on the show.
Was he constantly studying?
Constantly studying, reading a book, and his time management was impeccable. If he didn't have time to read a book, he'd have Blake read a book for him, Danny read a book for him, and he'd have people come out and mentor him and talk to him about details. And Frank Turek would be here, and he would pour into Charlie, and Charlie would be taking meticulous notes and study it. And then everything was focused towards his campus tours. He wanted to give knowledge that he could glean from the world to all these students across America.
That's an interesting question. Were the campus tours his dominant focus, or was it the big student events, or was it the show?
It was everything. It was everything, and how he was able to manage it all, I don't think anybody will really know. And he slept, and he still was able to do normal human things while managing a million tasks.
I can't imagine you trying to get him to like sit down with you and go over logistics when he is this, busy and important.
Corralling him and Mikey was definitely a challenge at times, but sometimes I would say I just need 30 seconds. I have a few things I need to go over, and so
would you just send him a video on the group chat?
I should
Charlie,
have done that.
I need you.
Yeah, that would have been helpful, but we just needed a little bit of time to nail things down, and we had a good routine. So
You seem like somebody who can handle that. And not everybody has those executive management skills. So just meeting all of you, it's very clear. He had a very clear eye for talent. And everyone here is so young. I just feel I'm so sorry that you've had such a tragedy at such a young point in your lives. We're going to be right back.
Acceptable sacrifice has a divine response. Every single time we give God what he's asked for, he always shows up in fire, right? It's amazing. So that to me is what gets me excited about the church, and I'm seeing that shift. And I, us Pentecostals, I mean, we're all about the presence of God, but I believe that evangelicals are, I believe that Catholics are, and I believe that there's a shift that's going from, drawing consumers to let's teach people to be priests. When people come in, they're going to experience the byproduct, which is the presence of God. It'll wreck people. People don't need to come to church to get David Goggins. They can get that on Instagram. They don't need TED Talks. They can already get that. What people need is encounter with Jesus Christ, and the power of the Holy Spirit.
Amen. So I totally agree. I actually think paradoxically that's why the Catholic Church is growing, because in the Catholic own approach, and I have such great respect for Catholics, I know we have some in the audience here, and I want us to actually dive into our agreements, not our disagreements, whatever, that we all know those. Totally. I actually think though that the reason why Catholicism is growing for young people, especially, is that there is an emphasis on the holiness and the experience with God. And there is an emphasis on the aesthetic. And do you agree with that?
Yeah, I'll tell you right now. I think the most beautiful thing about the Catholic Church is the Mass, and rather the Eucharist. So Catholics don't go to Mass to get a TED Talk. They go there to encounter Jesus through communion. I think that's beautiful. Baptists, for example, they go to church to encounter Christ through the preached word. John Piper says that the primary way of gazing upon Christ is through his words. I love that. So when we're emphasizing how do we encounter God, that's when the church is winning. And I know that we do that in different ways. But I think that the Catholics crush it that way.
What are some of the other ways? Worship, obviously, singing, prayer, repentance.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly. So prayer, gathering, the preaching of the word, communion, praise, giving your tithes and your offerings. I mean, that's literally you being the priest. You're offering, Lord, this is a symbol of my life, and I'm giving it to you in obedience to you. And I know that when I do this, you show up in my life. Fire's coming on the altar of my life when I offer this to you. It's like really holy. It's really, really amazing. So all those different ways. And the church is meant to facilitate worship, and that's, I think, what we're going to continue to do.
What are on the horizon some of the great threats to the church? We obviously identified deconstructionism, progressivism, wokeism. Do you think they've grown in the last couple of years, or are they decreasing in number? I feel as if that's becoming less and less fashionable. I could name at least 10 major pastors in the last couple of years that are coming in our direction. I mean, we here at Freedom Night, thanks to Dream City Church, we've been doing this since 2021. I mean, we were very early adopters, but Nathan, are they increasing? Are they decreasing? Give us a little status report.
Is deconstruction increasing?
Or progressivism in the church?
Yeah, look, I think that there's obviously a battle, and I think that there's been a battle since the church's inception. There were external and internal threats. We were fighting heresies for the first 400-500 years of church history, Gnosticism and mysticism.
Arianism.
Absolutely, exactly. So I think that we're always going to have these, Jesus even said, there's going to be, people will have itching ears, and just when Paul's talking to Timothy, he's just saying, check your doctrine, check your doctrine, check your doctrine, check your doctrine. So there's all kinds of people that are going to be, they're going to have mythologies and philosophies, and they're going to be trying to take power, et cetera. So I think that we're always going to be dealing with these types of existential problems, theological problems, and it is what it is. There's going to be people that are going to claim to be the Messiah, and they're going to be claiming to like the apostles, and they're going to be when Paul is writing to defend his apostleship, there's going to be people that are going to be claim to be this and claim to be that. So I don't think that it's deconstruction isn't alarming, it's on trend for what's been happening the last 2,000 years. That's what I would just say.
Let's close with a threat that I talk a lot about, that I think the church needs to more educate ourselves. I'll use the third person singular here, like the plural, that we need to educate ourselves better, and that is Islam.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're quite equipped and understand the spiritual ramifications here. I mean, if you go online, everyone wants to talk about Israel all the time. Fine, but like, okay, why don't we talk about Islam, actually?
Right.
The religion of a billion people, that many of whom are taking over the entire European continent, and we're about to have a Muslim mayor of New York City, and we have no idea what they believe or what it is. And so should Christians care about this, Nathan? I mean, some pastors say, well, they believe different stuff than we believe, and how should we think about Islam?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you should read how the first 1,000 years of pastors and thinkers in the church, like the patristics, how they thought about Islam. It's actually pretty shocking, because Islam hasn't really changed all that much. It's still very militant. I think that dismissing it as just another religion is naive. It is incredibly politically and ideologically and militantly driven in a way that, like, for example, Buddhism is just not. So not all religions are the same. So it's naive to kind of classify, it's a religion and it just goes in this closet. It's like Islam is not like that. It does not behave like that.
Is it a religion?
I would say that it would be naive to compare it to Buddhism, to compare it to Jehovah's Witnesses. I think it is a political ideology that it's a religion, political ideology that is inseparable from those two things, and it's militant.
And this is the most important thing. We as Christians, we are able to separate our church and state. In fact, sometimes we want more Christians to get involved in the state. But there is no mosque and state separation in Islam.
Correct.
It does not exist.
Yeah.
That teaching has never existed. And therefore, this is why so many Muslims run for political office. Because not only are they interested, they're commanded to try to institute what they call the Ummah, which is the covering of the earth.
Correct.
And there is a Islamic illiteracy that we have in the West. And honestly, shame on us as Christians for not talking about this more. And at the core, this is an immigration issue.
Yeah.
But Nathan, I'm told by Christians, we must open up our borders to all people at all times, no matter what, because that's what Jesus would do.
Right. Yeah, so, I mean, yeah, where did Jesus say that? Right. That's, you know. I think there's this misunderstanding about like neighbors and families, you know. So, for example, like, I love Japan. I love how Japanese it is. I love how foreign it is. You know, like, they do their own thing over there, and it's wonderful. If you've ever been there, it's just like, it's incredible. You know, like, their food and the way that they organize themselves on elevators and escalators, and, you know, I would never want to live there. But I love visiting there, and I appreciate their culture and the cultural differences. But I don't want to be Japanese. I don't want to live in Japan. Does that make sense? So I think that one of the issues is that people think that if you don't want to be it, you hate it. And that's one of the issues, is that people are like, well, America needs to be everything. It's like, what if America is American? You know, like, what? That's okay. It's, why do Americans have to hate their own culture and destroy their own culture? See, I'm Canadian, and I understand what multiculturalism is. And multiculturalism is the death of the dominant culture. That's exactly what it is.
Exactly right.
Like, I don't recognize my hometown anymore. In fact, when I go back to Canada, do you know what it means to be Canadian? Nothing. It means nothing to be a Canadian now. Justin Trudeau, the clown that was in there for 10 years, that destroyed my country, he called Canada the first post-national country, meaning that the only thing that we have in common is that we have nothing in common. That's what it means. That's so good. And it just destroys the social fabric. You think that people would get along, but it's the exact opposite. They don't get along. People don't work together. The Hindus are hating the Sikhs are hating the Muslims. It is just absolute and total chaos right now in my country. Nobody wants to work together. So
Welcome back, everyone, to the Charlie Kirk Show. I'm Megyn Kelly, sitting in for Charlie and simulcasting now on SiriusXM on the Megyn Kelly Show as well, which is perfect. For me, that's perfect. The two of us kind of holding hands and doing the shows together, which is what we did when he was with us. Mikey, let me ask you, because there are a lot of questions in conservative circles now about what's going to happen with the organization, because Turning Point's become very important to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I hope there are no turf wars. I hope there's nothing like, no, it has to go this way, no, it has to go that way. I think, choosing Erica to be Charlie's successor is the perfect way to stop all that, just to keep it consistent with Charlie's vision. But what are your thoughts on how you keep it consistent with what Charlie wanted and keep it going without him?
Yeah. Erica said it the other night. He was an excellent person to pick people. He loved picking people and choosing talent, finding talent and acquiring talent. And he would want to pluck somebody and bring them on the team if they were good at a job. But I was telling you earlier with Erica that for the first time, I got a little emotional 2 days ago, because for the first time when I was talking to her about where the organization's going, how we're going to continue Charlie's legacy, how we're going to really 10x this organization to become what Charlie inevitably wanted it to become. I hearing her thoughts and the way she was talking and breaking things down, I felt like for the first time I was speaking to Charlie for the first time again. And he told her everything. Private conversations, everything he was shared with Erica. She knew everything. And from the way she texts to the way she talks. And I can confidently say that I feel like it's Charlie still leading this organization. And we just announced it, that Erica's going to be the chief executive officer of Turning Point USA. And for the operators, for the people that helped run this organization with Charlie, we know exactly what he wanted in his meetings, what his vision was, his push. And the event coming on Sunday, we all just keep sending quotes to each other. More people, make it bigger. Oh. And he's ingrained in us. He's still there. And it's just like every difficult situation, every hard trial that comes up, it's almost like we have a blueprint that Charlie's just embedded into our minds.
The event on Sunday, honoring Charlie's life, it's going to have heads of state. I mean, every administration official, like that place is going to be in lockdown, I'm sure, first of all. But have you been overwhelmed with the number of responses?
It's touching, the amount of responses, not just with the event, but also outside of the event. The amount of people messaging me, everybody on this team, the organization, saying for the first time in 7 years, 10 years, ever, this is their first time going back to church. And that they sat in that empty seat that Charlie left in the sanctuary. And they turned to their neighbor and they said, Charlie brought me here. And other messages said, for every Sunday after this, I'll go back for God. But for this Sunday, I'm going for Charlie Kirk.
Oh, I love that.
And the overpouring of responses outside of this event is beautiful. But the event specifically, you're right. There's heads of state coming. The entire White House essentially is coming.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And I believe when Air Force One lands, there's going to be a lot of people that you guys will see at this event. It's going to be very beautiful.
Have you guys been, I mean, you knew Charlie so well. You knew him on a daily, you're getting his clothes, right? And his food. Have you been surprised at like the worldwide tributes to him, the massive impact that his loss has had?
Yeah, for sure. You when you're with Charlie every day, he's not Charlie Kirk. He's just Charlie. And then, something like this happens, and his reach was so big. It was bigger than anything I think we ever even realized, me personally, especially. And he was just so...
You think you're working for a company, not necessarily a cause, and then you realize it's something far more profound.
It's way bigger than any of us, and it's bigger than Charlie. It's really cool.
Can I ask you guys, like, how did you get the news last week? Were you here?
Yeah, me and Danny were both there.
You were there on site with him?
On site, yeah.
Gosh, Danny. I mean, did you worry about security in advance of these events? Because I know Charlie, he said openly he'd been getting death threats.
Yeah, we always would worry, but it wasn't really our job to worry. We were just kind of more so focused on doing what we had to for the team, and whoever's job that was, we trusted them and everything, and we still do. His team did great. So yeah, it was never really... We were more so just focused on doing what we needed to for Charlie.
I have to imagine there was a level of disbelief on your part too, just like there was for those of us who weren't there, who were watching on TV.
Yeah, just kind of state of shock at first. Yeah.
Has it been helpful to come back to the office and like be with each other?
Yeah, absolutely. I think leaning on each other has been the most important thing through all of it. It's sort of an unspeakable feeling that I think we're all experiencing, but to be able to go through it together has been very, very helpful.
Do you like? I personally have been surprised at how many people feel this personally. I mean, people openly weeping who never met Charlie and actually who weren't even necessarily fans. They're not detractors, but not fans either. And it's, I think, because of the content that's being pushed out, that they're getting to know him. Of course, the violence with which he was taken, but also just the content. Do you have somebody going through hours and hours of Charlie tape and like refreshing it for us? Like, how are we getting all this new content? What feels like new?
Yeah. I mean, Charlie would bank hours of content. He did 4 hours a day, and then on top of that, he was doing 5 speeches a week.
He was?
We were traveling, like, we were supposed to be in Colorado State today. We were supposed to be in Nashville tomorrow. He would just bank these speeches and content. We didn't even post all of them. We have so many speeches that haven't even been posted yet.
Who is he speaking to?
Groups. On Friday, he was supposed to be speaking at a church event. Today, he was supposed to be speaking to students at Colorado State. And
wow.
When we were in Asia, he was speaking to a random group of Japanese people and at the America Fest equivalent in Korea. But to their point, security-wise, I don't think it matters what the security was. Nothing was going to stop Charlie from giving his message where it needed to be. And he died too soon, but he was always ready to die. Everything he did, he poured into it 100%. He was always dedicated to his work, dedicated to his message. He knew that the truth was the truth. He'd always say, north is north no matter what. There's objective truths that need to be shared to the world, and he was ready to share those.
When I found out that he'd been wearing a bulletproof vest, I thought to myself, oh my God, like I didn't even know that it had gotten that bad.
Yeah.
Like in terms of the death threats, because we all sadly do get death threats in this in the public eye.
Yeah.
Had it escalated prior to last week?
We've always gotten threats before. Nobody's ever really acted on them like in this way, but we have received stuff in the past.
It's so sick, right? It's like that this should be the cost for saying what you believe.
Truth.
Now everybody wants to know what Charlie would think about everything. You know, I'm talking to a lot of people. They say, well, what would Charlie think about this? What would Charlie think about that? And I try desperately not to answer those questions because it's not up to me to say that kind of thing. I feel like Erica can say that and nobody else can say that.
Exactly.
But I do wonder, I feel like Charlie might be happy about the Jimmy Kimmel situation.
He put out a tweet. I posted on my story today. Jimmy Kimmel isn't funny. It was a tweet that he posted way back when.
He was right. He hasn't been funny for a long time. As President Trump would say.
Yeah.
Rosie's a loser. She's been a loser for a long time. As if it's like it's quantifiable. Exactly when she became a loser.
Yeah.
And same with Jimmy Kimmel. He was once funny and he's not anymore.
Not anymore.
And like President Trump with the Antifa declaration today. I thought that was amazing. Like that was a group that Charlie called a lot of attention to.
Yeah.
And obviously may have had some connection to what happened last week. But what do you make of the Kimmel termination?
I love it.
It's just indefinite suspension.
Sweet justice.
Yes.
And I think we were all waiting for it. It's a shame. I mean, Charlie's seeing it and he's loving it. But to only see his reaction to it would have been priceless for all of us who work so closely with him. But yeah, we love it. Nobody thinks Jimmy Kimmel's funny anymore.
No.
So...
And the nerve of that guy to suggest that this guy was MAGA.
I know.
Like,
disgusting.
There was no way he was getting away with that. And we're going to talk more about that when Walter Kern joins me next. He's got lots of thoughts. You guys, I think I speak for everyone when I say we are all sending you all of our love, all of our support. I am, of course, willing to do whatever it takes to keep Turning Point going forward and as robustly and strongly as ever. And I know everybody out there is feeling it in terms of donations. You guys just keep telling us what you need. And we'll all be there.
Thank you.
Much love to you.
Thank you.
Okay, don't go away because there is a lot to talk about in the actual news. And we will talk about Jimmy Kimmel and President Obama's whining. Stay tuned.
Compatible, and that's okay.
Isn't it interesting? There are 50 plus Muslim majority countries, and yet Muslims so badly want to come here and turn this into another one. It's because it is a conquering ideology that masquerades itself as a religion.
Correct.
And that needs to be repeatedly said.
Yeah.
And again, this is not about hating individual Muslims. Literally, my primary care doctor here in Arizona, Zudi Jasser, like the sweetest guy ever, is a practicing Muslim who's trying to de-radicalize Islam. We all know individual Muslims who we care for, we minister to. We're talking about an ideology.
Right.
And you must be able to separate an ideology from precious individuals that we care about. Because they're always going to try to conflate those two.
Yeah.
Right? We should care for those individuals, and we should minister to them, and we should have great relationships and be neighborly and be Christ-like to them. And we can see really goodness in a lot of those people.
Yeah.
But don't tell me that Minneapolis is going in the right direction.
Right.
Like, I'm sorry, that's not true. Don't tell me that New York City is going in the right direction.
Right.
That they're about to have a Muslim Marxist mayor in America's largest city. And we as Christians, and we'll kind of close on this, Nathan, Western civilization is Christendom. It is an inheritance and a birthright brought to you by Christians.
Right.
And when we seek to establish that, we seek to actually have what makes us, what quote unquote, the dominant culture. And it's not racial, it's not ethnic, but it is cultural. And that's what's important. Yes. And you must assimilate towards that norm when you come here. And immigration without assimilation is an invasion.
Correct.
And we should not put up with it.
Yeah.
Nathan, final thought, and then I'm going to bring Lucas in for a line change here.
Okay. Yeah. Jeez, that was so good. Yeah. I just totally agree. I think we have to be able to separate. So who is my neighbor? My neighbor is my Muslim doctor, and my neighbor is a family that is here from Mexico, and they're begging and they need food, and I want to take care of them, and that's my Christian duty to take care of them. And
Amen.
As a Christian, I need to separate.
Said that we're being invaded.
Does he have that power? I
Yes.
thought that was a congressionally approved
No,
thing.
that's not correct. The President of the United States has an ability within a 90-day emergency clause window to say that we are being invaded by a special power. It's called the War Powers Act of 1990 something. The War Powers Act gives the President the authority for 90 to 100 days to declare that we are being invaded. And we have been invaded, by the way, by MS-13 and Tren de Aragua. It's a material fact.
Considering, one of the things that's super important when we consider law is the spirit of the law. And do we really believe that these laws were enacted with the spirit in mind of gangs being associated as arms of a state?
Potentially.
MS-13 and Tren de Aragua are not Venezuelan arms. They're not.
No, MS-13 is. That's not correct. But let me throw it back at you. MS-13 is El Salvadorian and also Venezuela. Yeah, Tren de Aragua is Venezuela. MS-13 is El Salvadorian. He signed Declaration of Invasions against both. But let me challenge you on this, because you're coming after this in good faith. Was the First Amendment written in the spirit of Facebook posts?
Can you clarify a little bit?
The First Amendment,
Yeah.
part of the Bill of Rights, ratified in 1791, was it written in the spirit that it shall apply to tweets?
Not to private corporations.
Well, no, meaning like, do your free speech rights apply also to the internet?
So it applies to public squares. The question that we're having now is Facebook a public square? Are Twitter public squares?
It's a separate issue. The issue is that we would all agree that you have a First Amendment right to express yourself, and the government can't throw you in prison regardless of where you have it. Whether you write a newspaper op-ed or whether you do a Facebook post, right? You have a First Amendment right to do that. The point being is you say, well, the spirit of the law in 1798, it doesn't matter if a law is old. It matters what moral claim is the law trying to make, because times sort of change, but people do not. Human nature goes unchanged. And so the point being is the Alien Enemies Act has been invoked 4 times in our nation's history. War of 1812, Civil War, World War I, World War II. And I believe totally appropriately invoked here. It's been enjoined by the Supreme Court right now, so we'll find out its future. But when you have 15 million people come into your country in a span of 4 years, that is definitionally an invasion.
I guess an invasion requires a certain commitment from a state, right? It's a big difference between an invasion and an immigration wave is whether there's a state operating.
Or a force. The cartels, man. The cartels operate like a state. The cartels are the reason that a lot of these people are able to make it up to the border. They pay.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Charlie Kirk Show. I'm Megyn Kelly. It's completely an honor to be sitting here in Charlie's studio, wearing the Freedom shirt and talking with Charlie's staff and about how Charlie lived his life. It's amazing here. Everyone is young. Everyone is energetic. Everyone is, in a weird way, upbeat. And by that, I mean, like, they're obviously in deep grief, but they are finding a way to laugh with one another and be with one another and forge forward. And I will tell you, this is the most optimistic I have felt since 8 days ago about the future of Turning Point. I just feel like these people, we are in good hands. Like, this organization will go forward and they can do it. Not only can they do it because they knew Charlie very well and they knew his vision and they'd been doing it, but you can just tell it's a family and they are more committed now than ever to making sure that this organization stands and grows and becomes even stronger than it is right now. And it's going to be, hopefully, other than logistically, it's going to be easy because they have the support of the world right now. And they also keep getting bits of good news here and there. Like last night, the decision that Erica Kirk will take over as the CEO of Turning Point. Just saying it gives me the chills. It's exactly, of course, what Charlie would have wanted. You know that from the tape you've seen of the two of them in what was one of the most beautiful love stories any of us has ever witnessed. And inspiration, even to those of us who have been married for 18 years and are already happily married, to do even better, to try even harder, to make our spouse even happier. And think of what somebody like that can do at the top of this organization in the name of her husband. I mean, it's going to be something to watch and participate in. They need everybody's help. One of the other pieces of good news is that Jimmy Kimmel is no longer on the air, and we're absolutely thrilled. We won't miss him at all. And frankly, all the liberal tear crying all over X is only making it better. What's the opposite of salt into your wounds? Sugar? I don't know. Balm? It's wonderful to see them upset. I'm sorry, but it's like Stephen L. Miller, who's not to be confused with Stephen Miller, the Trump administration senior official. Stephen L. Miller, he's been on the show before. He's very clever. He's a great Twitter follow, and he tweeted out or posted on X, national media being more upset at Jimmy Kimmel losing his show than they are at Charlie Kirk losing his life is kind of proving the point. I couldn't say it any better than that. That's exactly it. They're way more upset about this news, about this guy, this talking head who's been such a buffoon for so many years, doing nothing other than being unkind. I'm trying not to swear. It says right here on the top of my packet, reminder, no swearing, because I'm on Charlie's show now. He was so wholesome. But in any event, being such a jerk for so many years, losing his show, no one cares. Most normal people don't care. Walter Kern, do you care? He's my guest now and joins me via satellite. Walter, your thoughts on Jimmy Kimmel and the leftist meltdown?
Well, let me say something first. 2 months ago, Charlie asked me to be on this show, and I'd never been on it before. And I said no, I was too busy. I would get to him this fall. Well, he's not here. And now I'm on his show with him not on Earth, which is a lesson to us all. Don't put things off. Don't take things for granted, and how quickly and terribly things can change. So I'm sorry, Mr. Kirk.
Oh, Walter.
I'm sorry that I delayed too long. Anyway, what do I think of Jimmy Kimmel? Well, I do a little showbiz. I write screenplays. I've had movies made of my books. I've written on TV shows. Jimmy, that's showbiz. You weren't funny. You weren't any good. You wished death on half of your audience in not so subtle ways. Hey, Wheezy, rest in peace. You made a false claim that this case had been cracked and the culprit was MAGA. In other words, half the U.S. public. Now you're gone, and you're gone legally, and I think legitimately because ABC leases the public airwaves in order to make money. And that lease comes with conditions. And that is that it serves the public good, basically.
That's right.
And it wasn't serving the public good. It was acting on behalf of a regime. It was acting on behalf of its pharmaceutical advertisers that keep it, supported. It was slanting not just the news, but every joke. It's not cable. Greg Gutfeld is not comparable. He's on cable news. Those are private wires that are laid in the ground. This is the public airwaves, a stage that we give people on the condition that they use it with decency and some sense of fairness and fair play, and in the interest of all of us who own it. We own that station. We merely lease it to
That's
ABC.
right. And now they're finding
They
out the hard
violated their
way
lease.
that there's a new sheriff in town at the FCC who actually is going to start enforcing these rules and regulations. I got to take a quick break, but we're going to pick it up right here when we come back. And I'll tell you what Jimmy Kimmel has been saying in response to the news. Don't go away.
Money to the cartels. The cartels are using drones, they're using speedboats, they're using helicopters. The cartels act like a government. In fact, the cartels run the Mexican government. The Sinaloa drug cartel is more powerful than the Mexican Mexican government.
I would agree with labeling these terrorist organizations. I think they have the funding, they operate, they have such. But there's a key distinction between a government entity and a terrorist organization.
Hold on a second. We declared war on Al Qaeda.
Yeah.
What government was Al Qaeda?
We can declare war on terrorist organizations.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. So, if we signed the Alien Enemies Act against Al Qaeda, it would have been perfectly fair and appropriate, obviously. And Al Qaeda is not a government. What I'm saying, though, is that the cartels, the MS-13 and Tren de Aragua, they are being supported by governments. They're harbored in governments. The Alien Enemies Act, of course, applies to them. These are enemies here on the mainland of America doing harm. And Kilmar Abrego Garcia is a member of MS-13. He was a wife beater, a child abuser, here illegally. He had a deportation notice on his head, and now he's back in his country of El Salvador, and we should be happy that he's home.
So, I can grant you that he might be all these things. It does not mean that he doesn't get a day in court.
But as a non-U.S. citizen, though, the Alien Enemies Act allow us to expeditiously remove him. It's just the way it works. I mean,
no, you're right, but
and now that's not the case.
We can argue whether that was a correct invocation, right?
But that's irrelevant. The Supreme Court has now said no more, so there will be no more. But in that specific case, nothing was done illegally. The only argument you might have is that the judge says you could deport him anywhere except El Salvador. So we probably should have just deported him to, I don't know, the Congo, and everyone would have been happier. Hilariously, they said, oh, he's in a foreign jail. No, he's not in a foreign jail. He's an El Salvadorian in his own country. He's not an American. If he would have went to Gitmo, that would have been a foreign jail.
Yeah. Okay. And then, let's see.
Thank you.
I think that's it for me. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Could I ask you for a red hat?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks. Great question. Yes, sir.
All right. Hi, Charlie. My name's Gabriel, and I'm a senior in high school. And I want to tell you this. I don't know much about this topic, so I'm here more to learn, but I also want to provide a point of view. So I wanted to speak about Trump's tariff policy. So since January 2025, Trump has had one of the worst presidential terms concerning the economy. And there's statistics to back this up. S&P has dropped 8%, Dow Jones has dropped 7%, the Russell has dropped 12%. The way I understand it, tariffs are a tax that are passed on to consumers. They impede upon the world free trade and increase the cost of imported goods. This not only has tanked our economy, but is actually putting small businesses across America out of work. Middle-class Americans that voted for Trump believing prices would drop are now having to close down their small business because they used to rely on outsourcing. Now, I understand that Trump's goal with this tariff policy is to bring back jobs to America. However, this is an unrealistic reality. Even though some corporations are moving production to the U.S. to avoid tariff, in reality, most would rather pass the cost on to consumers than financially pay billions of dollars in building new plants in America and paying higher wages. With all of this, I wanted to ask you if you could please defend Trump's tariff plan.
Sure. Great. First of all, the market's recovering, but you're right, it has gone down. The market is not necessarily a good indicator of the economy. We have an economy and then we have a market. Half of Americans don't own any stocks, just for the record.
Okay.
And that's a very important thing, right?
There's a lot of Americans that have money in stocks and
No,
are
of course they
losing
do.
money every day. because of
Well,
these
actually,
tariffs.
okay, you're in high school, so I'm just going to be like super gentle. Like the market's been up the last couple days, right? Markets go up, markets go down.
Okay.
The more important question, though, is what type of economy is going to survive the next 40 or 50 years? When we do not make our own vitamin C, we don't make our own antibiotics, we don't make our own drone parts, and it's all made in China, we should try to re-domicile it. It's tempting to blame this all on tariffs, but there's actually no tariffs that are in place right now. You know that, right?
There's still a 10% baseline tariff, and even though there's a 90-day pause, they're going to come back. That's the reality.
You know that better than I do, right? Yeah.
Well, I know that. That's a fact.
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay.
There's a 90-day pause on
Okay,
tariffs.
so again, I'm trying to be super, like, you're in high school, it's fine. You know Trump's talking to South Korea and Japan and Vietnam.
Okay.
We're going to get massive deals with India, and we're going to fix the trade imbalances. And here's the core of it. Can we at least agree that Trump ran on the idea of tariffs?
He did.
And people voted for it?
Yes.
Should elected leaders do what people vote for them to do?
Yes, but I agree that he's doing what he said he would do. What I'm asking you is how can you defend what he's doing? Because what would you say to the middle-class American that has a small business that now has to shut down their business because they used to outsource to China and now they can't pay due to the high tariffs? That's my question.
They were outsourcing to China?
Well, even though some small businesses don't outsource, they get a lot of their production from big companies that do make their products foreign. And so now those prices are being jacked up and small
The voice of generations is The Charlie Kirk Show.
Welcome back to The Charlie Kirk Show, which goes on just as Charlie would want it to. He's got millions of fans now across the world and so many who listen to the show and depended on Charlie to bring them the news unfiltered and with his brand of straight talk. And I'm honored to be here doing that for him today. And a shout out to the Megyn Kelly Show listeners, too, who are listening on SiriusXM and on our pod as well. Jimmy Kimmel wasn't sorry. Okay, we played the soundbite on our show for you yesterday, and I'll play it here now just for those of you who haven't heard what got him indefinitely suspended. He's fired. We'll see, unless Disney bends the knee. But right now, it's not looking good for old Jimbo. Here's what he said in SOT 7.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
So he's a despicable pig, and he said that when he knew that it wasn't the case. The evidence had been ubiquitous about this person's left-leaning and commitment to left-wing ideology. We've gone through it repeatedly. You all know. And all of that was out before Jimmy Kimmel said that on Monday night. Did he come out on the air on Tuesday night and try to correct his lie? No, because it was a lie. It was an intentional misstatement of fact meant to mislead you. It was not a mistake, as some left-wing defenders are saying right now on X. And his plan on Wednesday was not to go out and apologize that night either. His plan, according to The Hollywood Reporter, was to go out and claim that he was the victim because it was taken out of context. And he was going to give us the proper context in which somehow his lie about MAGA at a time when MAGA is under greater threat than it's been in quite some time, that he ginned up that hatred during such a time when MAGA's grieving in a way it hasn't been so profoundly since I've known it, that he did that in a way that was just simply out of context. Okay, more lies. And so the stations groups from Nexstar and others, by the way, it wasn't just Nexstar, Sinclair went to Disney and said, we're not running this show. We're not going to be a part of this. Not now, not ever. We're no longer going to be complicit in his lies. And the FCC commissioner, Brendan Carr, had said earlier in the day that he wasn't going to tolerate this, that they have an actual duty to uphold the public interest on the airwaves. And Disney caved, as it should have. He had no right. That's literally what some are saying. He had a right to be out there with his show. Swalwell, he's an idiot. He had no right, and now he's accurately and justly been taken off the air. So, Walter, your thoughts on the leftist claim that this is government interference, which does make it a potential free speech problem. I mean, at least they have it right that when the government's involved, you have a potential First Amendment issue. But I mean, my own thought on it is, yes, that's right. But government actually here does have a role that's actually statutorily prescribed.
It absolutely does. Imagine Yellowstone Park, a park that belongs to the people, and it grants a license to one particular company to lead tours. But it says, hey, there's two things. You can't abuse the wildlife and you can't be mean to the tourists. And then it starts abusing the wildlife and being mean to the tourists. Does the federal government have a right to fire that person or at least threaten them with it? Absolutely. Does that company that wants to keep that lease, that special privilege that allows them to make money, have an interest in getting rid of that tour guide? Absolutely. So that's all that happened. The rest is bombast. You have a right to speak, and I'm sure he'll have a very popular Substack or streaming channel, but you do not have the right to a stage that belongs to the people of the United States. And the broadcast airwaves, as I said before, are exactly that. They are a resource like water or land, a set of frequencies.
You know, here's what I want to say about Jimmy Kimmel or Stephen Colbert, for that matter, in the podcast lane. Of course, we love it, and we've now really made our livings in it. I mean, I've been over this lane for 5 years, and you're in it too. So we love it, and it's meaningful, and it's the future. We know that. But here's what's so delicious. To Jimmy Kimmel, that's going to be horrible. Like, his recognizing that that's where he has likely to land next is going to be a fate worse than the worst possible outcomes for him, because he thinks he's of ABC and Disney. He's used to going to the theme parks and having his rear end kissed. He wants to be at all the right parties, and he wants to be the king of television. People who are on television think television is the only thing that matters. So he's definitely going to suffer, which is delicious, because he's been the king of enjoying everyone else's cancellation for years. Just to do a quick search for what he said about Tucker when he got booted from Fox for far less controversy than what he just caused. You there? No, there's no SOT, Walter. That's just me asking for your opinion on it.
I was waiting for it. Yeah, I thought that was a big lead up. No. I thought that was the drum roll. Listen, let's get some realism in here about show business and about network news and so on. Jimmy Kimmel was on his way out. Trump predicted that he was next after Colbert months ago. I have a good friend who works in the very small world of late night comedy hosting, okay? Everyone knew Jimmy was not long for this world. So what he did was he went on a suicide mission at the last minute. He shot his mouth off doing something that would only please the partisans so that he could then pose as a free speech martyr rather than a sad sack toad of a bad comedian.
Yes, that's exactly right. And it's like, it's amazing to me because people are like, speaking of Swallow, he tweeted out, he's a comedian. And Scott Adams responded, so was Roseanne. Do cartoonists count? Because, of course, Scott Adams had Dilbert pulled from him, his comment pulled after he said something too controversial. Roseanne got fired for a tweet. She wasn't even in her lane. He was on the air for Disney. Jimmy Kimmel was. And let's not forget, they fired, I tweeted this out last night, Walter, ABC, the Mouse fired Chris Harrison, who hosted The Bachelor, because a bachelorette was unearthed to have had pictures at an antebellum-themed party years ago. And he said, oh, geez, shouldn't we judge her by like the way we were at the time as opposed to the way we are now? They fired him. His career never recovered. So why wouldn't they get rid of Kimmel for this?
Bill Maher was fired from his show Politically Incorrect, if I'm not mistaken, because he said something about the 9/11 hijackers. He said whatever else they were, they weren't cowards because they were willing to die for their cause.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
He got canned. He's got his butt. Sorry, I almost swore.
I know, we're not allowed. No swearing. It says right here on my list.
$500 to Turning Point for every swear that comes out of my mouth. But they kicked his butt off the air, and that's not a swear. And he came back because he was talented, because he had a loyal fan base. And he, I was on his show a couple of weeks ago. Jimmy Kimmel can land on his feet if he wants, but I doubt he will, because the real wonder of it all was that Jimmy Kimmel lasted on the air for as long as he did. He was he had some guardian angel. He didn't have to be funny. He didn't have to pull ratings. He didn't have to speak to half of America. He was allowed to insult people at will. He actually campaigned on stage. I just saw a clip this morning of him giving a long talk to Republicans in his audience about why they shouldn't vote for Trump. He wasn't news. He was worse than news. They used him to do things that news isn't allowed to do, like lie.
Yeah, exactly. So now he's reportedly very angry. This is what the trade rags are saying, is that Jimmy Kimmel is furious that this has happened to him, as though he is a passive victim who is really just martyred here because he didn't do anything wrong. It was just taken out of context, and the mean, bad television executives are out to get him. And meanwhile, I just have to get this out. You've got people like on the left, like Ben Stiller, and there are many I could pick on, but I'm going to pick on Ben Stiller here, who decided to tweet out about this, about Jimmy Kimmel's indefinite suspension. This isn't right. Okay, it's not that pointed, whatever, it's fine. This isn't right. That's his belief. We went back just to see if he had said anything about Charlie. Nothing. He couldn't manage "this isn't right" about Charlie Kirk's assassination. But he wants us to feel bad for Jimmy Kimmel, Walter.
It makes you wonder about Hollywood. Aren't they in the business of amusing and pleasing the American public? Apparently not. For a long time now, they've been curiously not in the business of making money, pulling ratings, making good movies, and addressing reality in those movies. They're often some Marvel comic book universe. What exactly are they showing solidarity with? I don't understand it. Do they believe they are a guaranteed a future, even if they have the wrath of the American people?
They think they're standing up for the First Amendment, which is so ironic given the way they've been behaving for the past 6 years. They're the ones who backed the Biden regime that censored all of us on COVID, on the Hunter Biden laptop. We could go down the list. They were fine with all of that.
Megyn, you may not agree with this, but the public airwaves, meaning the broadcast networks, which belong to all of us, were bought by the pharmaceutical industry, who are 70% of the advertising. They were purchased by them, and they were used in their behalf. One of Jimmy Kimmel's bits was to make fun of ivermectin as horse paste and claim that anybody who showed up having used it at an emergency room should be allowed to, quote, rest in peace, i.e. die. Well, that drug, ivermectin, was a present danger to Pfizer's vaccine that was coming, and a way of treating people when there were no other real ways pre-vaccine. This guy sung for his supper, for his masters. It wasn't Jimmy Kimmel speaking when that ugly mouth opened. It was a huge industry that spoke through him. And now he's acting like a free speech martyr because that industry is facing the loss of their right to advertise on TV, which they've only had since the late 90s. And so they're drumming up a big First Amendment case so that they can go on buying the news. And that's how I really feel.
It's really incredible. I mean, this is the same group of people who wrote, like Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader in the House, actually wrote a letter to Fox News demanding that they not let Tucker Carlson air his special about the J6 event. And that's government actively interfering where it doesn't have any right. The FCC actually does have a right.
And that's the funny thing, Megyn. The government, which does have a right to intervene with public broadcast networks, took that right and extended it into places during COVID and during the Trump era generally, where it doesn't belong. Platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and so on, cable news, etc. They tried to be the cops in other people's towns, and they succeeded because they intimidated management and they infiltrated it, frankly, over at Twitter. I mean, you just went from the FBI to Twitter management, and that's documented.
True.
And so now they are facing the worm turning. They are facing a public that before Charlie's death was already changing in its complexion.
Yeah, and now is absolutely outraged. Stand by. We're going to pick it up on the opposite side of this break. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
not mean that he doesn't get a day in court.
But as a non-U.S. citizen, though, the Alien Enemies Act allow us to expeditiously remove him. It's just the way it works. I mean,
No, you're right, but
and now that's not the
we
case.
can
The Supreme
argue
Court's
whether that was a correct invocation, right?
but
where
that's
our
irrelevant. The
disagreement
Supreme
is.
Court has now said no more, so there will be no more. But in that specific case, nothing was done illegally. The only argument you might have is that the judge says you could deport him anywhere except El Salvador. So we probably should have just deported him to, I don't know, the Congo, and everyone would have been happier. Hilariously, they said, oh, he's in a foreign jail. No, he's not in a foreign jail. He's an El Salvadorian in his own country. He's not an American. If he would have went to Gitmo, that would have been a foreign jail.
Yeah. Okay. And then, let's see.
Thank
I
you.
think that's it for me. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Could I ask you for a red hat?
Yes,
sign?
absolutely. Thank you. Yep. Thanks. Great question. Yes, sir.
All right. Hi, Charlie. My name's Gabriel, and I'm a senior in high school. And I want to tell you this. I don't know much about this topic, so I'm here more to learn, but I also want to provide a point of view. So I wanted to speak about Trump's tariff policy. So since January 2025, Trump has had one of the worst presidential terms concerning the economy. And there are statistics to back this up. S&P has dropped 8%, Dow Jones has dropped 7%, the Russell has dropped 12%. The way I understand it, tariffs are a tax that are passed on to consumers. They impede upon the world free trade and increase the cost of imported goods. This not only has tanked our economy, but is actually putting small businesses across America out of work. Middle-class Americans that voted for Trump, believing prices would drop, are now having to close down their small business because they used to rely on outsourcing. Now, I understand that Trump's goal with this tariff policy is to bring back jobs to America. However, this is an unrealistic reality. Even though some corporations are moving production to the U.S. to avoid tariff, in reality, most would rather pass the cost on to consumers than financially pay billions of dollars in building new plants in America and paying higher wages. With all of this, I wanted to ask you if you could please defend Trump's tariff plan.
Sure. Great. First of all, the market's recovering, but you're right, it has gone down. The market is not a necessarily good indicator of the economy. We have an economy, and then we have a market. Half of Americans don't own any stocks, just for the record.
Okay.
That's a very important thing, right?
There's a lot of Americans that have money in stocks and
No,
are
of course they
losing
do.
money every day. because
Well,
of these
actually,
tariffs.
okay, you're in high school, so I'm just going to be like super gentle. Like the market's been up the last couple days, right? Markets go up, markets go down.
Okay.
The more important question, though, is what type of economy is going to survive the next 40 or 50 years? When we do not make our own vitamin C, we don't make our own antibiotics, we don't make our own drone parts, and it's all made in China, we should try to re-domicile it. It's tempting to blame this all on tariffs, but there's actually no tariffs that are in place right now. You know that, right?
There's still a 10% baseline tariff, and even though there's a 90-day pause, they're going to come back. That's the reality.
You know that better than I do, right? Yeah.
Well, I know that. That's a fact.
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay.
There's a 90-day pause on
Okay,
tariffs.
so again, I'm trying to be super, like, you're in high school, it's fine. You know Trump's talking to South Korea and Japan and Vietnam.
Okay.
We're going to get massive deals with India, and we're going to fix the trade imbalances. And here's the core of it. Can we at least agree that Trump ran on the idea of tariffs?
He did.
And people voted for it?
Yes.
Should elected leaders do what people vote for them to do?
Yes, but I agree that he's doing what he said he would do. What I'm asking you is how can you defend what he's doing? What would you say to the middle-class American that has a small business that now has to shut down their business because they used to outsource to China and now they can't pay due to the high tariffs? That's my question.
They were outsourcing to China?
Well, even though some small businesses don't outsource, they get a lot of their production from big companies that do make their products foreign. And so now those prices are being jacked up and small
Welcome back to the Charlie Kirk Show, which goes on, just as Erica Kirk said it would. We are all going to help. All of us who love Charlie will make sure his show goes on, his legacy goes on, his events go on. That one of our most beloved sons is gone, but his movement is not gone. And it is up to all of us to make sure it thrives. I hope you'll all join me in supporting TPUSA. It'll be an honor for us all. Walter, where do you think this goes? Where do you think all this grief and love and the complicated feelings the country's having right now goes?
Well, the history of civilization suggests that true martyrs, people who die for their beliefs and die when enacting peaceful, strategies, they're not in war, they're not in bitter conflict. Those are the most influential people in history. I mean, the most influential person in Western history was one of those, but we have many cases. And I would imagine that for the people who wish to honor him and the people who are touched by him and the people who are just finding out about him, there will be a great and deep desire to carry on in his spirit, not just in his spirit in terms of politics, but in terms, I think we've got a bigger situation on our hand. We've got a spiritual situation on our hand. It's leading to a revival. I've got kids who, I'm not talking about my own kids, who I know in their 20s, young guys, sitting around in their apartments, drinking beer, doing their first jobs, who are having deep conversations and texting me, hey, Walter, what do you think about this? Where it says in the Bible, I wasn't aware you guys knew there was a Bible. This is happening in the last week. That is a movement of the spirit, and America has had revivals that have determined its history several times. On the other side, in terms of those who are hostile to it, I think they look like a bunch of screaming banshees who have had the lights turned on while they engaged in dark practices, and they're exposed. I think that this is to some extent out of our hands. It's up to us to hold the standards of civil discourse and other values that Charlie held dear, even dearer than he did. He was obviously the threat. What he was doing, he wasn't a rabble-rouser. He was a debater, and he was a spiritual person. And that they identified as the biggest threat, which is why they eliminated it. That means to me that emulating his behavior is the biggest threat and the most powerful tool. And so I think people will pick it up. And I think things will change because I think the reestablishment of decency, first of all, common decency, which is all they're trying to do in this ABC case. But it looks like radical action, and they call it fascism now because we haven't observed any common decency for so long in this country.
It's so
But
true.
I think things will change for the better. I really do, Megyn. They may get intense. They may be loud. They may be fractious. But I don't think that the release of a spirit like his into the public mind with the intensity and the drama around it that surrounds his death can't help but be a good thing.
Yeah. And in those who don't accept his goodness and let it infuse them with the Holy Spirit and a renewed drive to stand up for the things we know are true, but instead go to the dark place of mocking him or what he stood for, God help them. God help them, because their future is dark and it's grim and it's depressing, unlike what the rest of us are about to do, which is going to be uplifting and uniting and could just save this country. Walter Kern,
I
thank
feel
you.
invigorated. And I was not someone watching Charlie Kirk every minute. I'm a little bit old for the people he was trying to address. But boy, I'm not too old now.
Amen. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. We'll talk again soon. I want to say thanks to all the folks here at Turning Point. They've taken such good care of me, not just today, but over the years, and encourage all of you to believe in this organization and get behind Erica, because let me tell you, being here, I can see it. Their future is bright. These are dark days right now, but their future is bright. We're going to say goodbye with the following clip, SOT 19, the crowd outside of TP USA.
Amen.